morning, my Patreon family. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm at the cabin, getting it all prepped up for the family next week. All the boys are coming up here. The grass has been cut. The targets have been put out. They're gonna come up and we're gonna do some shooting while they're here. We're gonna have some campfires. We're gonna cook some marshmallows. Might as well play with guns, don't you think? Here's my 44 Magnum. I've been carrying that 44 Magnum for a long time. But I gotta tell you, I've been playing with my 357 Magnum. Loads and stuff. And I put a load together the other day. I forget all the numbers because so many, I play with so many loads. I remember like the bullet and all that. I don't remember the powder without looking at the recipe for that particular bullet. I only made 40 of them anyways and went to the shooting range and tried them out. I do them at 15 grains. I can't remember the powder. It might have been IMR 4227. Might have been. So don't take this for gospel and go make yourself a bullet. But anyways, it was 180 grain jacketed bullet for the 357, setting on 50. The reason I remember the powder is because it was maximum powder, 15 grains. I'm pretty sure it was IMR 4227. I had no idea that a 357 could do what that bullet did. Because it had an enormous amount of kick behind it. And when it hit the berm behind the target, it was like an explosion went off down there. That 180 grain bullet was traveling at 1,500 feet per second and then stopped. I was building that load up for a self-defense load for my wife because I purchased her years ago a 357 Ruger for her nightstand firearm. So I was building that bullet up for her until I went to the shooting range. It has too much kick for her. And if she saw someone in the hallway leading into the bedroom, I think it would blow them out through the living room window into the driveway. That 1,500 feet per second, my goodness. The power that was behind that bullet. So I think I'm going to, and it kicked like a mule. For a 357, it kicked like a mule. It kicked in comparison to my 44 Magnum. So that's where we're at with that one. But holy smokes. So I said all that to say this. I've been carrying that 44 Magnum for a long time. Maybe it's time to carry 357. Well, I won't do that. After you've carried a gun so long, you kind of hate to switch out. But it's nice to know that I could build a bullet that hard for that 357. So I'm not going to keep it at max powder. I'm going to back it off. I'm going to back it off a couple of grains. You know, people don't think about it, wearing out guns and all that. When they're talking hot loads and heavy loads. you're much better off with the milder loads because of gun wear and tear. Whether it's a pistol or whether it's a rifle, the bolt actions, not a whole lot of wear and tear going on there. But you can wear out barrels. People don't think of it that way, but you can. I've been, the last few weeks, I've been, not that I own one, and probably never will own one. I've been looking at these, these black guns. And what I walk away with for knowledge after studying them, and the same thing with the semi-automatic pistols and all that, I think that's how I got headed down this road. Semi-automatic pistol versus revolver on wear and tear. And what I came away with, I forget the numbers, so forgive me, but after studying it for a little while, it was a ridiculously small amount of ammunition to be fired in these semi-automatic rifles and pistols before it had to be rebuilt. And that, anytime you interest me like that, that got me headed down a rabbit hole, because how many people want them black guns now? And I come away with thinking it's because they don't know any better. When the shit hits the fan, what kind of gun do I want? Well, they're all got these black ones. And I believe, now again, I might be wrong on the number here, but I believe when I was done doing my research, because I don't have it in front of me, wrote down, the black rifle needs to be rebuilt at about 50,000 rounds. Well, that sounds like a lot of ammunition. But it really isn't when you go, if you've got a 30-round clip and you're buying your ammo 1,000 at a time or 2,000 at a time, bulk ammo, you can reach 50,000 bullets really fast. And I guess it's because of all the springs and all of that are inside of them black rifles. And that falls back to these hot loads or these maximum loads are doing the same thing to your semi-automatics and all of that. So when you see these guys that are touting hot loads, maximum loads, all they're doing is wearing out a good pistol or wearing out a rifle prematurely. The thought of rebuilding a handgun never crossed my mind in all the years I've been shooting revolvers. Now, I guess there is one spring in there, that runs the firing pin and the hammer. But I think that the risk of, if the shit hits the fan, at the end of, say, whatever time length, you're going to find that the only guns still left standing out there are these single action revolvers. Because once one of those black guns goes down, not only does it need to be rebuilt, but you need to find parts. And if the shit has hit the fan, finding parts could be impossible. Think about that. Could be impossible. And with a single action pistol, my goodness, there are no parts. And I think the semi-automatic pistols, I think their main spring, when you rack back, there's a spring in there. I think that spring needs to be replaced at 20,000 rounds. So if you came to the end of the line and you can't get your hands on any more rifles and pistols, and you own a semi-automatic pistol and a black rifle, you might be one of the first ones that are out of the fight because of breakdowns and missing parts, because you can't get parts. So, you know, I'm not saying the shit's gonna hit the fan, but I've always planned as though it was going to. I've always planned as though it was going to hit the fan. But that's something to think about and do your homework before you invest a lot of money in these black guns, because that's the way everybody is going. Well, if you watch any of my videos, you'll know that I'm not a follower. I never have been and I never will be. I think about things, I mull it over, I throw in a whole lot of common sense. And if it doesn't make sense to me, I'm not going to do it just because everybody else is doing it. Because everybody else could be wrong. They could be wrong. I went with Ruger pistols because I'm a reloader. When I built up my collection, I went with bolt action rifles because I'm a reloader. They're about the easiest thing to reload for. I have never reloaded for a black rifle. 223, I guess, is most of what they're in. But I do know that if the pressures aren't just right, the gases aren't just right, length of the billet not just right, it won't feed. So if you've got any issues with feeding, and you're trying to resolve them in the reloading room, that's a pretty tall order. Especially for new people starting out. And it's the same thing with the semi-automatic pistol. Now, I own 3 semi-automatic pistols. 4. 2 of them I don't reload for because just dirt cheap ammunition. And then I have 2 that I do reload for. And they're 9mm SIG P365. I had to get the right bullet. I had to pour the right style bullet before that either one of those pistols would feed. And what it took was a round bullet. It took a round top. I had flat top. I like pouring bullets at a flat top. I like everything about a flat top bullet, especially in the reloading room. But this semi-automatic 9mm wouldn't feed with a flat top bullet. So I had to go with a round top. Now it feeds great every single round. And then you have the lever actions. I like lever actions. But you have the same issue there. I have a couple of lever actions. The length of the bullet matters on a lever action rifle, where it barely matters on a bolt action. It'll pop in there and then you push the bolt forward and she'll chamber. But the lever actions, man, we have a 30-30. And it took me a few dummy rounds before I came up with a length that would chamber without sending up 2 bullets or getting one tangled or whatever. It took a few dummy rounds before I developed a load that I could put together that would chamber. So even the lever actions got their issues when it comes to the reloading room. Where the revolver, single action, and the bolt action. You'll see that's what I do that for a lot of reasons, not just those two, but they're the easiest ones to reload for. They're the ones that'll last the longest in the fight. Might not be the fastest fight at the beginning, but it's not how many times you can pull that trigger to who wins the bacon. You know, even a 30-round clip, you know, they're relying on numbers. That's not always the case. But, well, that's just my thoughts on a few things right there. Mainly the wear and tear of a hot load on a firearm. Keep that in mind. That's a real deal. Same thing with the barrel. You can burn out a barrel on hot loads. Life expectancy on that barrel are a whole lot shorter when you're running hot loads and maximum loads. So you're a lot better off about midway on the chart. You're about better off, if not even down around the starting load. You know, the only way to tell is to get out to the shooting range, squeeze the trigger, and see what happens. So, but hey, you guys have a great day. It's let up on the raining out there a little bit. I got a couple of camp chores to go get done. Got to get my dishes done. Maybe even throw another log on that fire, because it is damp, cold, and chilly. You have a great day.